Yes. Hello and good morning to all of you. A warm welcome to the first of a series of lectures and webinars we have planned at hosted by the English Department of SSN College of Engineering, Chennai. At the outset, I would like to request our Head of Department of English, Professor S. Thiruvenkataswami, to make his opening remarks before we go to the next item.
Good morning. A warm welcome to each and every one of you attending this webinar. We are very happy from the Department of English, SSN College of Engineering. As was already pointed out, it is the first in the series of several international webinars that we have planned. We are very happy to welcome in our midst Professor Samaraweera, Darshana Samaraweera, Deputy Director General, National Institute of Education, Sri Lanka. You will hear more about him from our colleague Deepesh in a short while from now. He is here to talk to us on the topic, a continuous professional development for teachers. Continuous professional development for teachers. I think this topic is very apt in the present time when, although we are going through this pandemic where teachers feel isolated from students, from their colleagues, from society, and all sorts of people around. At this juncture, webinars and social conferencing platforms have given us a wonderful opportunity to cement our connectivity, to be in bondage with our brother, our fraternity of teachers. I'm sure all of you would agree with me. It's a wonderful opportunity to be in touch with all the teachers and get to know their views and also share our own ideas and work towards mutual development and a feeling of belongingness and togetherness in this pandemic period. Well, talking about the topic, continuous professional development lies at the root of everyone's endeavor. And we at the Department of English, with highly qualified faculty, actively involved in teaching, research and development, are always at continuous professional development in many ways. As you know, the continuous professional development would need discovering or identifying our own needs for development, and then planning the learning activities to realize what we think are our needs at the moment. And then when we are able to realize what we think we need at this moment or by way of a professional development, we will be able to apply it in our classroom practice. Darshana Samaraweera from Sri Lanka, with his vast years of experience, will be able to tell us today how we can reflect on our own teaching practices, set goals for ourselves for professional development, and then also be able to successfully implement them in our classroom practice. With these few words of introduction, I once again welcome each and every one of you to this international webinar hosted by the English Department of SSN College of Engineering. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Thiru, for setting the tone of the talk. And as Professor Thiru just mentioned, it's indeed an honor and a privilege for all of us to have a thorough professional and a dear friend for me, Dr. S.A. Darshana Samaraweera, as our resource person today. Who better can we ask to talk about continuing professional development for teachers than a thorough professional himself? Dr. Darshana Samaraweera is currently the Deputy Director General of the Faculty of Languages, Humanities and Social Sciences at the National Institute of Education in Sri Lanka. He has an MPhil from the EFL University in Hyderabad and a PhD from the Management and Sciences University in Malaysia. And both his MPhil dissertation and his PhD thesis dealt with topics related to continuing professional development. One was on mentoring and the other one was about teacher burnout. Currently, he teaches on the various programs of NIE, including the diploma in TESL, the B.Ed, the M.Ed programs, etc. He is also visiting faculty at several universities, including the Open University of Sri Lanka and the University of Colombo, etc. He has a vast experience of teaching. He's been teaching for about 30 years now. If I'm not wrong, he started teaching in the early 90s. If you have a checklist of what are the things to do as part of continuing professional development for teachers, Dr. Darshana Samaraweera will have all the items checked in the checklist. So he has presented papers, he has published them, he has given talks, he is on several committees, he has guided research. So I'm not going to read out to you all that he has done. He has done everything that a teacher must involve in as part of his or her continuing professional development. Before I request Dr. Samaraweera to speak about continuing professional development, a quick word for all those who have joined us. During the question answer session after the webinar, during the question answer session, we'll be sending you a feedback form, and all those of you who fill the feedback forms will be given a certificate. So who better to talk about CPD, continuing professional development, than Dr. Samaraweera, and what better time than today when, like Professor Thiruvenkataswami just pointed out, we are in the middle of a pandemic, and we need to build a sense of network, a sense of togetherness. So over to Dr. Darshana Samaraweera for his talk on continuing professional development for teachers.
Good morning, all. Thank you very much, my time friend, Dr. Deepesh Chandrasekharan, for that wonderful and inspiring introduction. And I need to thank my friends, Dr. Philipose and Professor Thiruvenkataswami from SSN College for inviting me to conduct this webinar today to share. As Dr. Chandrasekharan said, I don't know whether I am suitable for this task. However, as a student of this particular field, teacher professional development, and as somebody who is interested in developing myself continuously as a teacher and teacher professional, I will try to share my ideas with you this morning related to continuing professional development of teachers, especially during this period, this pandemic period. It's a great opportunity for us to have this kind of experience, especially these opportunities help us share ourselves. And I'm very much thankful to SSN Engineering College for creating this common platform for us to share our experience. Let me share my screen first. Right. Continuing professional development for teachers. This is what we are going to discuss today. And first of all, I will share my overview of my talk today. First, let's try to make an attempt to define this concept of continuing professional development. And then let's try to identify ourselves to put things in perspective. Is teaching a profession? Are we real professionals, teachers? And then I will discuss a little about the professional life cycle, especially career cycle for teachers. And then the importance of CPD, or continuing professional development for teachers. And then a few means of CPD in the present context. And the most important thing is I'm sure there are school administrators and department heads listening to me. I'm going to discuss certain points to consider by the organizations related to CPD, and then let's have a question and answer session. So, in trying to define CPD, continuing professional development, I found this. And CPD, or continuing professional development, is the term used to describe the learning activities professionals engage in to develop and enhance their abilities. It enables learning to become conscious and proactive rather than passive and reactive. Let's have a look at the key terms involved in this definition. Now, learning activities, it's a key phrase here. And then professional, develop and enhance abilities, and conscious and proactive. It's a conscious process. CPD, or continuing professional development, is a conscious process. It's a conscious learning process where professionals engage in a lot of activities to develop their abilities. And it enables learning to become conscious. This learning becomes conscious, and CPD always gives an opportunity for a professional, whether it's a teacher or any other kind of professional, it gives an opportunity to improve. It is continuous improvement, and to be proactive rather than passive and reactive. Now, professionals have to be proactive, and it's not the professionals should not be passive and reactive rather than waiting for something to happen and to react. Professionals have to predict and they have to be proactive. So, this achieving this independent status by a professional can be identified as CPD, or continuing professional development. So, what is a profession? According to the Australian Council of Professions in 2003, they tried to define a profession. A profession is a disciplined group of individuals. Now, it is a group, if it is a profession, you have professionals, a group of individuals coming under a particular discipline, and they adhere to ethical standards, and they hold themselves out as and are accepted by the public as possessing special knowledge and skills in a widely recognized body of learning derived from research. Now, if we call a particular profession a profession, there is a body of knowledge that is inherent to that particular profession, and that knowledge, that body of knowledge, is derived from research. Now let's try to understand this further. Now, as teachers, we know we engage in research, and there is a sizable body of knowledge particular to teaching and teachers in various areas. So this qualifies us to be called professionals, and teaching becomes a profession. One thing is because of this recognized body of learning, this body of knowledge, and then education and training at a high level. Now, teachers, they are educated, and teacher development has become an area of research. And there are teacher educators all over the world engaging in research, and they keep on adding, they keep on contributing to this body of knowledge day by day. Even right at the moment, when I speak to you, there are researchers engaging in research studies, and they are trying to improve the quality of teaching. They are trying to improve the standards of teaching professionals. So this is very, very high level education, and the teachers or the professionals are prepared to apply that knowledge and exercise those skills in the interest of others. So that's what we are doing. Right? That's what we are doing. Now we gain knowledge and we exercise those skills and knowledge in the interest of others. So it is inherent in the definition of a profession that a code of ethics governs the activities of each profession. Now let's try this against teaching profession. Now teachers, they are bound and they are always, they adhere to a code of ethics. As teachers, that is inherent in this profession, code of ethics. And such codes require behavior and practice beyond the personal moral obligations of an individual. Look, this definition of a profession by Australian Council of Professions, and that suits teaching very, very well, very well. So they define and demand high standards of behavior in respect to the services provided to the public and dealing with professional colleagues. Now, all teachers all over the world, right? They, when you define the profession of teaching, you find they possess these qualities. And further, these codes are enforced by the profession and are acknowledged and accepted by the community. Now, right, with this definition, I think I don't have to go for other definitions. Australian Council of Professions in 2003 has very clearly defined a profession, and against these standards, when we measure ourselves, the profession of teaching, we understand we teachers are professionals and teaching is a profession. So there is no need to doubt this. And I think we qualify to be called professionals, the teachers all over the world. It's not only in India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, or Nepal, or Pakistan, but everywhere in the world, teachers, we deserve to be called professionals, and teaching is a profession. So, with that understanding, let me show you another thing, that is the market research institution GfK conducted a poll in 2009 that is about the five most trusted professions in the world. Now this happened in the poll happened in the US and Europe, and the results are alarming. Now, normally what people think is, okay, now doctors are better professionals than teachers, and then engineers are better professionals than teachers. Legal professionals, they are better professionals than teachers. But according to this, the results of this poll, you find, the teachers are the second ranked most trusted professions in the world. Now, first place goes to firefighters. 92% of the sample, right, they had agreed that firefighters, they are the most trusted professionals in the world. And then comes teachers. 83% of the sample, they had voted for teachers. And doctors, nurses, postal workers, and armed forces, with 81% of votes, they have come to the third position. And now this shows where we are. And it's very recent, in 2009, we are the second most trusted professional group in the world. So, with that understanding, let's go forward. And it's not only understanding, with that pride, because all the teachers who are listening to me today, we have to understand that we are among the five most trusted professions in the world. And though it is second place, we can be very, very happy. So, professional life cycle. Now, when it comes to the continuing professional development of a teacher, we have to understand the dynamics of the professional life cycle of teachers. Now, I will show you, there are a few models. I have selected 3 models. The first model is Huberman's model that came in 1989, and he developed it again further in 2001. And according to Huberman, he categorizes the life cycle into three main parts: the novice period, mid-career period, and the late career period. And Huberman, of course, he further subdivides each of these periods. Now, for example, the novice period, he subdivides it to three areas, like early novice stage, middle novice stage, and the late novice stage. And during the novice stage, now this is the period, according to Huberman, where a teacher struggles, and actually at the very beginning is early novice stage, right? They are highly worried about their practices. They doubt their practices. They are not sure of their practices, and they're not sure whether they can do things in the right way. They're not sure whether what they do is correct or whether what they do is right. They struggle a lot with this feeling, and little by little they begin to stabilize their career, and they begin to be stable during the mid career and now then middle novice stage. And they are struggling again, but with a certain understanding of their professional practices. And then when it comes to the late novice stage, their primary concern is to create some kind of impact on the students. And then they simply get into the mid-career stage, where stabilization, experimentation, and taking stock happens. They begin to be stable. That during the stabilization period, during the mid-career uh, period, and then the last late career teachers, right? During the late career period, they achieve serenity. They begin to understand. With teachers with many years of experience, they are comfortable with the classroom, and their role. They have identified their role. Now, if you are a late career teacher or a mid career teacher or a novice teacher, now you might understand now with this model, Huberman's model, you will understand, right? There are some of these characteristics are with us. Now, the next stage of the late career teachers is disengagement. Now, they begin to alienate themselves from their classroom, their school, from their life as a teacher, and they begin to look at the other avenue. They begin to look at the other avenues of life. So that is one of the characteristics of a late career teacher. So now we understand that there are dynamics inherent in these particular periods. Now, going beyond, actually, the second model I have selected is, it's a little older than Huberman's model. That is, they are Fessler use a few stages like pre-service, induction, competency building, enthusiastic and growing, career frustration, stable and stagnant, career wind down, and career exit. Now, this gives a kind of a very detailed description. These stages, they give a detailed description of a teacher's career cycle. You start with the pre-service, and until you exit, there are different stages. However, now one thing we have to understand is that these stages, they are not watertight compartments. There is a lot of fluidity. Now, for example, career frustration might occur at any point of a teacher's life, but according to the research, of course, teachers go through this process during their career life cycle. And the third model I want to show you is Steffi's. This is 2001, and Steffi calls it a developmental continuum. A developmental continuum. And in this continuum, again, we find the concept of novice teacher, and then the concept of apprentice teacher. And after this apprentice period, you become a professional teacher. And with continuing development, a professional teacher becomes an expert teacher, and then a distinguished teacher, and finally an emeritus teacher, active retired teacher, right? Because teachers, even though they might retire from the service, but the role they play as a teacher, that never ceases. So an emeritus teacher is an active retired teacher. So what we understand is that these models, they all have certain things in common. And all these researchers, they are trying to show us that the professional life cycle of teachers is a very dynamic thing, and it is a developmental continuum. So any continuing professional development intervention, of course, have to be aligned all the time with the dynamics of the professional life cycle or career cycle of the teachers. This is one thing we have to understand. I will be discussing this further a little later. So now let's see why we need continuing professional development for teachers. One thing, the first is to improve their self-efficacy, because now we know, according to the women's model, now the first stage, when a novice teacher starts his life cycle, and they are during the early novice stage, and they feel a lot of they feel uncomfortable, they doubt a lot about their practices. Now, to get out of this situation and get out of this condition, this mental condition, we have to help them improve their self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is the feeling of or the strength or the ideas you develop, the innate ideas you develop within yourself as a professional towards your practices. And when you understand, you do the right thing. That is self-efficacy. You become an efficacious teacher. So to improve, without improving an individual self-efficacy, an individual professional self-efficacy, it is very difficult to get them to a stable professional life. So CPD help teachers improve their self-efficacy. And this is one of the very important things about continuing professional development. And once you are an efficacious teacher, you increase your confidence and capacity, your confidence on what you do. Especially as a teacher, if you are confident on what you do, if you know I'm doing the right thing as a teacher, and that helps increase your capacity as a teacher. So now let's think of ourselves. Now you go to the classroom, you enter the classroom, and you have your lesson plan. You know what to do, and you know how to react to situations, how to be proactive actually, not to react to situations, but how to take independent decisions inside the classroom. And if you are confident enough, you can make decisions, and that improves your capacity. And then there is another very important thing, that is to reduce burnout. Dr. Chandrasekharan mentioned that I have studied burnout. Yes, I have studied burnout, and I'm still a student of this particular area. So teacher burnout is a syndrome. It's a syndrome that occurs in any professional. This could occur, especially with the people sector people, individuals or professionals. That means those who work with people. Now, teachers, as teachers, we always work with people, and burnout is very it's a prominent syndrome that happens, that can be observed among people service professionals. So there are three main features of burnout. And burnout, if you are a burnt out teacher, it can be identified with your actions. If you are fatigued, emotionally exhausted, according to the researchers who have extensively worked in this area, especially Christina Maslach. And according to Christina Maslach, there are three things. First, emotional exhaustion, and then if you treat your clients, the children, and maybe those who come to you to get your services, if you treat them as objects, if you treat them with hatred, if you are angry, and if you think that they are troublemakers, so that is another feature of, or another sign to say that you are burnt out. And the last one is reduced accomplishment. Reduced accomplishment. Now, with these three things, right, you can understand whether a professional is burnt out or not. There are different measures to measure the burnout level of individual professionals. I'm not going to talk at length about burnout or how to measure burnout, but we can reduce the burnout, this syndrome called burnout, the level of burnout with CPD, because every day, every minute, if you're getting something new, then you it's like a rolling stone gathers no moss. Right? You keep on renewing your professional life. So with that enthusiasm, if you can go ahead, right, burnout can be reduced. The level of burnout can be reduced. And with that, right, definitely we will be able to ensure the retention rate of the teachers. One of the problems the world is facing today is teacher retention. Right? Teachers are, there's a lot of attrition, and teachers, they either leave the profession, or they go for early retirement. And in Sri Lanka, one of the biggest problems we face today is early retirement. Right? And maybe most of these teachers who retire early, they are burnt out because of their emotional exhaustion, and because of they are burdened with overwork. Maybe they are retiring, and there are a few research studies happening right at the moment in Sri Lanka regarding this. Last year, one of my students did a research, and she found that most of these teachers, they retire because of the heavy workload, and they are emotionally exhausted. So to ensure retention, we can see the logical connection between these two things. If you reduce burnout, then you can ensure retention. We need teachers. We need expert teachers in the system. We need teachers who can handle things, who can be proactive, who can be independent professionals. So if you reduce burnout, we can retain the teachers within the profession, and that is going to be an asset, because if we happen to train teachers, if we happen to develop teachers afresh every year, every 6 months, that's going to be an additional burden to a country. So ensuring retention through CPD, through continuing professional development, as a result of reduced burnt out level. Oh, there is a logical connection between these two things. And if you are not burnt out, and if you are determined to be retain yourself as a teacher, that means you are satisfied as a professional. So, continuing professional development is for career satisfaction. And teachers, if you find job satisfaction within your profession, then retention is assured. There's a lot of connection, logical connection between and among these things. So, and the other thing is, it is very, very important. It's one of the most important things, that is to promote lifelong learning. Lifelong learners, they become leaders, right? They are the leaders. So if you want to become a teacher leader, a real teacher leader, you have to be in this practice of lifelong learning. And why we need continuing professional development of our teachers is to get them into this habit called lifelong learning. As long as you keep learning, you keep going as a teacher, because there is no escape for a teacher, right? It is always, for a teacher, it is always learning. And the day a teacher stops learning, that is the day he stops teaching. That is my understanding about our profession. So, continuing professional development helps promote lifelong learning among teachers, and especially now, let's think of ourselves. Most of us, we teachers, we are the people who were born in the previous century. We are the people who experienced the transformation from the old world to the new world. Now we have to change our paradigms. We have to have a developmental mindset as teachers. So without the developmental mindset, if we can't change ourselves, if we still stick to the practices of the old generation, as professionals, our professional life is in danger. That is because we are dealing with the generation Z. Right? This new generation has, it's a new paradigm, and their mindset is different. So we have to adjust our mindsets accordingly if we are to work with the new generation, the modern generation, especially the generation that has just stepped the new world, that is the period of fourth industrial revolution, which is governed by many things like artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, and the new concepts like cryptocurrency, and all these things. Right? We have to change our own paradigms, and that is what is called promoting lifelong learning. That comes only through continuing professional development engagements. And then contribute to sustainability. I think we all know that the world is threatened, and recently I've been telling this to all my colleagues whenever I got an opportunity to address my colleagues online. No, the world has changed, and what we need is sustainable development, sustainable national development. I will take these two things together: contribute to sustainability and ensure active contribution to national development. We, the nations, need national development, but it has to be sustainable national development. National development. As teachers, we are committed to one thing, that is to achieve the 17 sustainable development goals. Actually, not to achieve, but to support the nations achieve 17 sustainable development goals. It is not only one. Now many of our colleagues, they focus only on one thing, that is the fourth sustainable development goal, education. I don't agree with that. Personally, I think all 17 sustainable development goals, they have a bearing on the teachers. Teachers are responsible for giving our contribution to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals. If not, the sixth mass extinction is coming very, very soon. And the only thing we can do is we can simply delay it. There is no other way we can, until we find a place to live in the universe, another place to live in the universe, right? We can delay it. This is something I have been telling my colleagues recently. So now this is why we need CPD, to improve self-efficacy, to increase confidence and capacity, to reduce burnout, to ensure retention, for career satisfaction, promoting lifelong learning, contribution to sustainability, and especially there is ensuring active contribution to national development. Right? Now, I think this is very clear to you now. This is why we need continuing professional development for teachers, because teachers are they are among the most trusted professionals in the world, and teachers can change the world. They are the change agents. With that understanding, let's move to the next part of my presentation, that is means of CPD. This is, of course, we all know. I want to categorize means of CPD into two: structured interventions and self-motivated interventions. Now, structured interventions are the interventions created by the administration, created by the school, created by the organization, created by the state. If continuing professional development of teachers is a priority of the state might create a different framework for continuing teacher development of the teachers. And now in Sri Lanka, we are trying to develop a better framework for continuing teacher development of the teachers right at the moment. A framework that suits the needs of the next generation, especially that suits the 21st century learning. And it could be taking up a course as a part of promotion scheme. Now, especially the motivation is different, right? We have to understand when it comes to a structured intervention of CPD, right? It could be as a part of a promotion scheme. Now, the government or the state government or the school board might give you targets, give us targets as teachers, right? For the next promotion, this is what you should do. And this motivation is different, because as long as the promotion scheme is there, right, until your retirement, you might get involved in these activities. After that, what happens? If you say, if the promotion scheme stops, what happens? So the motivation is different. And then we have teacher quality circles. In most of the countries, we have established teacher quality circles. They are established by different administrative setups. So they are structured interventions. And the most important aspect of CPD is self-motivated interventions. If you are a teacher and if you are self-motivated, now that is the most important. Now, why you attend conferences, webinars? Now, right at the moment, there are people listening to me, and data you pay your own money, and it's your time, and the motivation is self motivation, and that is within yourself, intrinsic motivation, and that is to improve yourself, to share your knowledge with somebody. And this is the most important aspect of it. So attending conferences, webinars, and other activities now during the COVID period, I think we have engaged in continuing professional development activities more than ever. Now, if it was normal, I would travel to India, or I would travel to some other country once or twice a year to meet my colleagues and to share my knowledge. But all of a sudden, we have developed a new normal situation where we meet virtually. This is my 6th or 7th presentation to the South Asian community, to my colleagues in South Asia. So in a way, I feel I'm blessed, because if it was the normal situation, I would meet my colleagues at least once or twice a year, and it would be a rushing kind of an experience. But now, right, thanks to the new normal situation, right, we are attending conferences continuously, and the borders have become very, very thin. No margins, no borders, and we have become a real international community with this. So, but however, the motivation is intrinsic. That is the most important thing. And then we have these MOOCs, massive open online courses. And this the concept started, of course, much earlier, and during the COVID-19 period, I think these massive open online learning systems have created a real difference in the world. And thanks to open online learning, millions of teachers all over the world, across the borders, they got together to share their experiences and to ensure continuing professional development. So this is another very important thing. And we have to thank those who created the concept, and we have to thank those who are engaged in the massive open online learning concept. And then, if you want to be a part of a professional body because you want your professional development. Now, teacher professional bodies, and I want to show the difference between teacher associations and teacher professional bodies, because in our part of the world, of course, teacher professional bodies are, of course, we don't find many teacher professional bodies, but in the Western world, you find teacher professional bodies, a professional body for teachers governed by a professional council. So that gives us a lot of recognition. And if you become a part of a professional body, that means you are a real professional, and you get a lot of attention and recognition. So now, places like in Canada, you have many professional courses offered by professional bodies like Ontario Principals Council, and then you have TESOL Canada, then you have TESOL Ontario offered by professional bodies. And they're recognized all over the world. So being a part of a professional body, you can earn your continuing professional development right throughout. And then teacher associations. Of course, we all know teacher associations. In our region is very, very popular for teacher associations. And the teacher associations are here in this part of the world. They're very dynamic. And let's take as an example, LTI, English Language Teachers Association in India, and then we have INET. We have a very strong teacher association in Nepal. That is our colleagues, Himalayan friends. They have set an example to the world, Delta, with their Nepalese English Language Teachers Association, which is very dynamic, perhaps the most dynamic teacher association in the region. And then we have STELT in Pakistan, we have STELTA in Sri Lanka, we have BELTA in Bangladesh. So those teacher associations provide a lot of opportunities for the teachers to engage in professional development, and especially continuing professional development. They organize conferences, they organize special interest groups, and when we go out of the region, we have international teacher associations like Asia TEFL, and then we have TESOL. There are many teacher associations, and these networks, of course, they give you opportunities to interact with teachers from other parts of the world and to share your experience, and that's again real continuing professional development. Sharing experience and widening your network is very important. And then we have action research. Teachers they continuously they have to engage in action research and share their findings. And it is through action research we have developed teaching into a great profession. And engaging in action research and other types of research and publication, both are equally important. So to achieve continuing professional development, you have many ways, right? And especially you become a part of a global profession if you engage in action research and research, and if you publish, you become a part of a global community. So these are the means of CPD, and what I want to highlight here is there are two: structured interventions and self-motivated interventions. And I, as a teacher, value these self-motivated interventions very much, and I celebrate self-motivated interventions all the time as a professional, because that's where your real motivation is. So with that, let me continue to the next part of my presentation, that is what the organizations or institutions should do. Colleges, universities, schools, whatever, and the school boards, whether they are state boards or private school boards. Now we have to have the most important thing is having a clear CPD policy, continuing development policy. If CPD is a priority, we have to have a policy. That policy should always promote self-motivation of the teachers. Right? Rewarding is very, very important. That's necessary. Right? However, it is not because of the rewards the teachers should be motivated to engage in continuing professional development, but it should be the need, and that need should be supported by the institutional policy or the organizational policy. That's very, very important. And having a policy is not enough. We have to make the teachers aware of the policy. If as a school or a college or an engineering college or a university or a school board, if we have a clear policy for continuing professional development, we have to make our teachers aware of that. We have to tell them, look, we have this policy, and what you have to do is to adhere to the policy. So let them continue and encourage teachers. And this encouragement is very important. I know in India, it's a must for the teachers to engage in continuing professional development. I highly value that uh, move by the administrators. So encouraging teachers to engage in continuing development driven by the policy is another aspect of this. That's what the organizations should do. And the most important thing is aligning CPD with career life cycle. Now, if you, as an organization, as an institution, if you force your mid-career teachers or your stable teachers to engage in CPD programs designed for mid-career teachers or novice teachers, what is the use? Now we have to always understand the needs of the teachers during different stages of their career life cycle, and we have to align our CPD interventions accordingly. That is the most important thing. For example, making teachers, late career teachers, ready for their retirement life is also a CPD intervention. Right? Now we have to think of this, because it's for the stable teachers or late career teachers, the retirement could be a kind of a horrendous thought. The very thought of retirement could, some teachers, of course, we know, right? They get ready for this disengagement gradually, but there are others who find it difficult to make up their minds to retire and to leave the profession. So helping them leave the profession without friction is also continuing professional development, according to my understanding. So such teachers, now if you get them to engage in a course or a program designed for novice teachers, that's an insult. So as organizations, as administrators, we have to understand this reality, and we have to see whether the continuing professional development engagements are aligned with the career life cycle of the teachers. And then quality assurance of CPD interventions. Whatever continuing professional development intervention we think of, we have to have quality assurance. We have to have quality assurance systems. Without that, CPD interventions might go waste. So we have to think of this as organizations. We have to get together as administrations to understand the realities of quality assurance and how it could help CPD interventions, and how it could quality assurance could help teachers develop themselves. And then we have to develop standards. Developing standards framework for teachers aligned with the needs of their career life cycle is very important. Then only we can have a kind of realistic goals for CPD continuing, because setting realistic goals for continuing professional development is very important, and is through developing standards, a standard framework, we can achieve this goal. So these are some of my suggestions for our colleagues heading institutions and organizations. So having a clear CPD policy, making the teachers aware of such policy, encouraging teachers, aligning CPD with career life cycle, quality assurance of CPD interventions, and developing standards frameworks. Right? They are the most important things from the point of view of an organization when it comes to continuing professional development. So with that, let me show you what Brian Tracy says, the Canadian American motivational speaker and trainer. He says, one quality of leaders and high achievers in every area seems to be commitment to ongoing personal and professional development. This is a very, very important, and uh, uh, this tells us everything about CPD. That's what I feel. Now, if you want to be a leader and a high achiever as a teacher, right, in your area that's teaching, it's your commitment to ongoing professional and personal development that makes you a leader or a high achiever. So teaching is a profession that needs, professionals need a lot of courage. And to become a teacher, you need a lot of courage. And who dares to teach must never cease to learn. This is my message for all my colleagues listening to me today. With that, I want to conclude. Thank you very much for listening to me. And now it's your time for questions and my time for answers.
Thank you very much, Dr. Darshana Samaraweera. I think we couldn't have asked for a more comprehensive take on the very vast and relevant topic called continuing professional development. You began by putting the profession of teaching itself in perspective. You said how teaching is a profession. You brought us some perspective about the trust that people repose on this profession itself as a community. I mean, that teachers are themselves seen as among the most trusted professions in the world. And you went on to introduce us to the idea of why we need CPD in the first place, and also gave us a comprehensive list of what all we can do to achieve CPD in our careers, in our professional lives. And also you took us through the various stages that people have researched about, the novice stage, the mid-career stage, and so on. I think we can't be more grateful to you for putting it in such beautiful perspective, very succinctly, and I must say, within the exact 1 hour that you said you would speak about it for. I think hats off to you for that aspect of your continuing professional development as well. We'll straight away go into the questions. One of the questions that were asked by Dr. Karthikeyan J is about CPD being relevant, and he asks for some suggestions on online tools for CPD, and also, of course, assessment as part of that. Would you like to respond to that, Dr. Darshana?
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Karthi. Now, yeah, when we think of the online situations, online assessment, of course, there are many free tools like platforms like Moodle. With the help of Moodle, you can go ahead creating your own assessment tools. Right, that is one of the ways to do it. And apart from that, there are many options like Blackboard you can purchase. But I think for assessment of learning, what we need is to devise our own assessment tools, and with the help of you need to engage in a couple of programs that help us develop our own understanding of assessment, especially online assessment. So during this COVID period, I know it is online assessment that helps us assess the learning of our learners, especially as teachers of English. I know it's very important to assess the language ability and the production of language. So why don't we get involved in assessment as a community and refer to international benchmarking systems in terms of assessment? And the other thing is, the other thing I want to highlight is, rather than making language assessment, if you are a language teacher, language assessment very dull with say activities designed with activities with artificial activities. Why don't we get into what they do really in the college or the university, and why don't we form professional communities now, working closely with the teachers who teach electronics, teachers who teach electricals, right, and when and helping them develop authentic learning situations, and through that assessing or evaluating the language performance of the students. Now, for example, when our learners, when they make an online presentation, right, on electronics or civil engineering or whatever, in whatever the field they are in, if the departments can get the support of the English language teachers also to watch those videos or their online presentations, and to have a concrete assessment framework and to assess their language ability, I think that will be more important, and that's how they can authenticate learning rather than looking for new tools. Right, we can use the existing tools now. So, the platforms you use like Zoom, Teams, or right, whatever StreamYard now, that is the platform you use, SSN. Right, now what we can do is, right, the normal interventions, normal presentations you demand from your students, you can make them opportunities for you to assess their language ability, their communication ability as well. Hope I have given you a satisfactory answer.
Yes, you've given a good answer to a good question. We have a question from our colleague Praveen Sam D. What are the visible and invisible hindrances that come in the way of teachers in their continuing professional development? I think it's a broad question which you can dwell on briefly. Yes.
But that's a very good question. What are the visible and invisible hindrances? Yeah, the visible hindrances could be the lack of a professional CPD framework or a CPD policy within our organization. That could be one of the visible hindrances. Because if there isn't a policy, a clear-cut policy, and if we don't celebrate continuing professional development, of course, obviously teachers might not get into continuing professional development process. And the invisible hindrances are, they are of course, I think, more, right? One could be mindset. Now, if you have a fixed mindset instead of having a developmental mindset, that could be an invisible hindrance. And the other thing is the mindset of the organization and the people who run the organization. That is an invisible mindset, because maybe the teachers, they are interested in professional development, but right, maybe you have a policy written and you have made it a priority, but within that there could be an invisible hindrance, right? When people who handle the system, when they think no, the professional development or continuing professional development is not a priority. So that could be one invisible hindrance. I think in our part of the world, this is very, very prominent. Not the visible hindrances, but the invisible hindrances. So we have to be very, very careful.
Yes, I think the invisible hindrance that Dr. Sam is referring to, probably it also appears in this fashion. The next question, it's a difficult question to answer. How do you handle academic politics, says KRSPL or PI?
Yes, academic politics. Handling academic politics has to be a very strategic thing. Personally, I would handle academic politics in a very strategic manner. I will sometimes I will have to neglect. Sometimes I will have to resist. Sometimes I will have to keep quiet. And you have to decide. And then I think this is what is called being proactive. And I can't instruct somebody how to handle academic politics, because it depends on the context. So you can select any of the strategies, either to go ahead, right, persist and go ahead, either to neglect or to keep quiet. I don't know, right? There is no one fit all solution for academic politics.
Yes. Also, I think in the context of the politics, I think I should also mention this. I think what you said in the light of CPD itself, in the light of that, when you said about the self-motivated interventions that you referred to, if you are self-motivated to develop yourself continuously, irrespective of the politics or the hindrances that might seem to appear, you would continue to involve in CPD. It's almost as if you are convinced that these are important for you as a professional, irrespective of whether there is a goal at the end of it, whether there's a promotion at the end of it, or so on, right? So in that sense, it ties in neatly with what you said earlier, that if you have a mindset which focuses on self-motivated interventions, irrespective of how much the institution supports it or encourages it, irrespective of how much your colleagues or the surroundings around you support it, you would involve in such interventions of CPD. I think that would be a good thing to add here.
There is always light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, I think there's a broad overarching question now, which will take you back to the entire sequence here. Ragala Jyoti asks, what are the tools that help developing the CPD of a teacher? Would you
Okay,
like
I
to?
think I mentioned these MOOCs. MOOCs will be, that is a great tool, right? Massive open online programs. All the leading universities, they have their own online programs. Some of these programs are free of charge, and some of them are offered at a nominal cost. So they will help you keep yourself abreast with the international teacher community, and especially things like now shaping the way we teach. The Oregon University has developed a series of open online courses, and most of the leading universities, they are engaged in as a part of their CSR projects. They are engaged in these programs, and they will be a very good tools for continuing professional development, because you can take them leisurely at your own pace.
Yes, I think we've come to the end of the questions that people posed. I'd request Professor Thiruvenkataswami to kindly unmute himself and just say a few words before we go to the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much for calling me to say a few words now. It has been a wonderful session. As I pointed out in my introductory speech, continuous professional advancement is very important. And I was looking forward to certain guidelines as to how we can self-reflect, how we can set certain targets depending on our needs, and how we can go ahead after setting the needs to learning what we have thought we should learn, and then finally implement them in the classroom. For all these issues, we had wonderful answers, very practical answers and suggestions from Samaraweera. Thank you, Samaraweera, very much for being with us and enlightening us on this topic. And you've been always a friend to the English Department of SSN College of Engineering. We look forward to your support and cooperation, and a kind of a well-wisher for the department for the times to come. Thank you so much, and thanks all the participants for being very attentive and also raising very pertinent questions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. May I now request our colleague, Dr. Cherry Mathew Philipose, to propose the vote of thanks.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for the man of the hour, Dr. Darshana Samaraweera, for presenting a very insightful and interesting talk on CPD, continuous professional development. He gave us a 365-degree view of it from all perspectives, and he also made us think, like, what are the challenges and what are the possibilities and how to overcome these challenges. I would like to thank on behalf of the SSN management as well as the English department for finding time and being with us online. Dr. Darshana Samaraweera, thank you so much. And we would also like to thank all our online viewers for their questions as well as participation right from the beginning till the end. We have a few more talks lined up. We would like to have you with us in the future talks as well. Thank you so much. Stay safe, stay fine.
Thank you, Dr. Cherry. May I also remind everybody, if you fill the feedback form, which is there in the comments made by the English department, yellow highlighted chat comment, if you click on the feedback form, you will also get a certificate for attending this webinar. Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Samaraweera, for your talk, and thank you very much.
Thank you.